Most Christians know how the apostles lived, but very few know how they died. The Bible records only 2 of their deaths. The rest come from early Christian writers, ancient historians, and traditions passed down for nearly 2,000 years. These stories are tragic, inspiring, and in many cases, heartbreaking. This is the tragic end of Jesus' apostles. 1. Judas Iscariot, the betrayer. Judas, the disciple who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, was overwhelmed with guilt. The Gospel of Matthew says he hanged himself, and the book of Acts adds that his body fell and burst open, scattering his insides. A tragic end for a tragic choice. 2. James the Greater, son of Zebedee. James, the brother of John, became the first apostle to die for his faith. The book of Acts tells us he was killed with the sword by King Herod Agrippa. Tradition says he boldly refused to deny Jesus, even as he faced the blade. 3. Peter, the Rock. Peter spent his final years preaching in Rome. Early church tradition says he was crucified upside down, declaring himself unworthy to die in the same position as Jesus. His final words were said to be a prayer for the church he loved. 4. Andrew, the preacher to Greece. Andrew was taken to the city of Patras. There, he refused to stop preaching Christ. He was tied, not nailed, to an X-shaped cross to prolong his suffering. It took 2 days for him to die. He spent every moment preaching to the crowds who gathered. 5. Thomas, the missionary to India. Doubting Thomas became a fearless missionary. Tradition says he traveled all the way to India, where he was speared to death by local priests who resisted his message. He died praying. 6. Philip, the apostle of Asia Minor. Philip preached in the city of Hierapolis. There, he confronted the powerful pagan priests. Tradition says he was crucified upside down and stoned, continuing to preach even as he hung dying. 7. Bartholomew, Nathanael. Bartholomew faced one of the most brutal deaths in all of Christian tradition. Ancient accounts say he was flayed alive, his skin stripped from his body, and then beheaded for preaching the gospel in Armenia. His faith never wavered. 8. Matthew, the tax collector turned evangelist. Matthew, the writer of the gospel that bears his name, preached in Ethiopia. Tradition says he was stabbed to death while leading a church service, martyred at the altar. 9. James, the Less, son of Alphaeus. James became the leader of the Jerusalem church. Early writings say he was thrown from the temple roof, the same spot where Satan tempted Jesus. He survived the fall, so the crowds beat him to death with clubs while he prayed for their forgiveness. 10. Thaddeus, Jude. Thaddeus preached across Syria and Persia. Tradition says he was beaten to death with clubs or axes for refusing to worship pagan gods. 11. Simon, the Zealot. Simon traveled with Jude through Persia. There, tradition says he was sawn in half, a punishment reserved for traitors to the empire. He refused to deny Christ, even as the saw was raised. 12. Matthias, the replacement for Judas. Matthias, chosen to replace Judas, preached across Eastern Europe. Tradition says he was stoned and then beheaded, declaring Jesus as Lord with his final breath. 13. Paul, apostle to the Gentiles. Paul, once a persecutor of Christians, became one of the greatest evangelists in history. According to ancient sources, he was beheaded in Rome during the reign of Nero. He faced death with peace, writing, "I have fought the good fight. I have kept the faith." These were ordinary men who lived extraordinary lives. They were fishermen, tax collectors, skeptics, and sinners. But after encountering Jesus, they became bold witnesses who carried the message of Christ to the ends of the earth and gave everything, even their lives, for the truth. Their tragic deaths remind us of the power of their faith, and their legacy continues to shape the world today.